So I'm going to show you some of the hooks you can use. They vary in sizes. This will be the smallest one in the blue. This one will be a 4mm. This is like an averaged size hook. Most common patterns are with that size. But obviously they can go all the way up to a big chunky one, 10s, 12s, 14s. As you can see, the size does vary. So what I'm going to do is show you some of the wool that we're going to use today. Again, I'll show you the different sizes. So the orange is quite chunky. Black is an average, I think it's a 4. And this one that we're going to use today is around 4, maybe a 4.5. I'm going to use the hook because I haven't got the tag for it. So I'm just going to hook a 4 and see how the wool sits on the needle. I think that sits a little bit too tight. So I'm going to go up by 0.5 mm. This is a 4, so I'm going to go up by 0.5, which is 4.5mm. I don't know if you can see this. So the red's a 4, the grey's 4.5. Everything goes up by 0.5, your hooks usually. So I'm going to hook the 4.5 in, have a little look. I think that looks a bit better. I think it could possibly have been a 5, but we'll just stay with the 0.5. So on the label, it will tell you, obviously, the colour, but it tells you the weight as well. This is more useful when you're starting your patterns. It also shows you what size hook to use. So you look for this little sign, the little crochet hook. And this one obviously says it's a 4, so you'd use your 4 hook, okay? In my little secret package, I'll show you. What I do is I keep some of the wool with the tag, so you can see what ones you've used for your, your other projects and that. And I just keep a hold of them if I like a certain particular wool. I also use these things called stitch markers. Now, these are pretty good for, obviously, stopping your work from unravelling. You can just use like a Kirby grip though, but they stop it unravelling, and you can also use it to count your stitches. So like, okay, so now what we're going to do is pick the wool that you want, get a little bit off the ball and just place it in a pile. I prefer to do this because sometimes the ball will keep the tension on the wool and it'll tighten it. So to begin with, we're going to do a slip knot. So I'll show you how I do slip knots. So I hold it between forefinger and thumb. I have a long tail and a loop over the forefinger around the back, okay? So it comes across like an A. You'll take that back thread, pull it across and back around the forefinger, okay? So it ends up looking like a little cross on your finger. Hold the 2 ends, take the back one, loop it off your finger and pull it through. You might want to rewatch that a few times. There are different ways to do it. That's just how I've always done it. You place your hook in and then you tighten it with the slip knot, okay? I do keep a long tail. That's just for me to hold while we're doing our single stitches, like our single ones coming up. It's just a little bit, I find it's a little bit easier. And I usually hold the tail in my right hand because I'm right-handed, and the other wool in my left. That is preference. However you like to hold it is completely up to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain, however, to whatever width we want the scarf. I do it width-wise if I'm doing a scarf, because I think lengthwise is just ridiculous and it is just going to take hours. So do it however like wide you want your scarf, okay? It can vary, obviously if you want a thin scarf, you do less. If you want it thick and wide, you do more. So you basically just wrap it over, pull it through, wrap it over, pull it through. Some people use a measuring tape to see how long it is. Some people count their stitches. I just go by, I eyeball it. which isn't usually the best way. But these are now your stitches, okay? These are just your slip stitches that you'll use for your width. What we're going to do is we're going to use a half double crochet stitch now. That is the US term. They are a little bit easy to understand. So what we'll do is obviously the thread on the hook doesn't count. It's only these ones. So we'll chain up 3 more. The one on the hook doesn't count. We're going to go to the 3rd stitch in, okay? This one here. 1, 2, 3. That's the one we're going to use when we're looping in. So what we're going to do is a double half crochet. We're going to take the back thread and loop it over your hook, okay? Pop your hook through the 3rd stitch, okay? 1, 2, 3. Pop it through, and then hook the thread on to the needle again, onto the hook again. Pull that through, so there are 3 sitting on your hook. You'll hook it over again, and then this one will go through all 3 threads. 1, 2, 3. And that is your half double crochet, okay? We will do it again. You're just going to work into the next stitch over now. Some people like to miss 2 and do it in the 3rd one, miss 2, do it in the 3rd. I just do it then continuously into each one, into each slip stitch you've got there. So again, you will just work into the next one. That's my preference. Over, thread over, in through the stitch, thread over again and pull it through. Thread over again and pull it through all 3. Done. There's your stitches, okay? Make sure when you're chaining that it's not tight, dead tight, because you're not going to be able to get your hook into that chain stitch you did at the beginning, okay? Because if you're squeezing it in, it's going to make it really, really tight and really difficult to do this half double crochet, and it'll start to curl. Okay, so you're just going to do that for the rest of them, and then we'll come back. Okay, so you'll have chained almost to the end. Okay, so I've come back just before we do the last stitch, okay? So this will be the last one. I'll do this with you. Over, poke it through, hook it through, over, through all 3. What we're going to do now is we're going to go up a row, okay? So this is our 1st row, and doesn't it look cute? So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch in and flip it over to stop it curling. So same stitches we did at the beginning, over and through. That's it. That's going to take us up a stitch, okay? And then you're going to flip it over. Some people chain, 1, 2, 3 to go up. I just chain 1. Again, that's just the way I've picked up doing it. It's entirely up to you. What we're going to do is work into these little gaps. Okay, so I've used quite a light coloured wool so you can see the gaps, the holes. The darker the wool, the harder it will be for you to see this. And the thicker the wool, the bigger the wool, the easier it'll be as well. Which is why I haven't gone exceptionally small. So you're going to do the exact same stitch over, through that little hole, pull it through, hook it over again and hook it through all 3. We'll do it again, so you're going to go into each individual little gap, okay? So over, in, through, over, or through all 3. Yeah? What this will do is when you're flipping your wool, it will stop it from curling up into a little wee ball. It stops your wool all curling over on you. So as you can see, you can start to see the structure of the scarf. So at the end, you'll start to see it goes a bit straight, and you'll go all the way to the end again, and then we'll flip it again. So every time you come to the end, you'll chain 1 and then you'll flip it. Or ideally, if you feel it's looking a bit squished, you can chain 2 and flip it over, okay? Eventually it'll look into something like this, which is a hat I've made. I'll try and show you a little picture of what it actually looks like on. That is a similar stitch to the one we're doing. The stitch we're actually doing will end up looking like this, okay? So eventually your work will look like that. The thicker the wool, obviously I would then chain 2. And obviously the thinner the wool, you can get away with chaining 1 like we have. I use this quite a lot, this stitch. So as we're finishing this row, I will just go, you know, I'll just do a little chat while we're going through it. So obviously you do it all the way to the end. I'll show you how to tie it off a little bit. So what you're going to do is work all the way back through them again. Same stitch, you can see the structure is going to start to form for you. So as it keeps going, you'll see it's nice. You can see it visually very pleasing. So do it all the way to the end. This is a stitch I've used a lot in most of my projects so far. There's variations of this stitch. So if you wanted, this will be like a flat pattern, like the red one before. If you want it ribbed, where it's got like a ribbed effect on it, like in some of the hats I've used, same stitch, it just depends where you're doing it. So we're at the end now, so I'm going to treat this as if we finished. So what we're going to do now is try and cut this off. So we're going to go into the last stitch again, like we've done here. Now I obviously did at the beginning this a little bit too far apart, which is why there's a big hole. So say if it's too far, there's a big hole. If it's too tight, it will curl up. So what we're going to do is just tie this off. So you would normally cut your thread with quite a long end, pull it through like a slip stitch, but you pull the whole thing through tight and it will cut it off for you. So obviously it would be similar to this, but obviously a lot longer. And as you can see, these are all of our, we've only done 2 rows on this, so it will, if you keep going, you can make things like this hat. It will eventually look like this one. This is the ribbed effect though. That is a similar stitch, but instead of going through that little hole, we will go through the back arrow, but we won't go over that. This would make it like a ribbed effect like this hat. The stitch I used to make this, and I usually used it to make the sleeves on this.